All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Temple of Mercy Ministries, right here at the Bach Business Center, located at 644 East on 79th Street, Chicago, Illinois. I am Brother Minister Omari Jahi Aden. I'm the co-founder of this great movement, along with our founder, Brother Minister Raheem Kassir Aden, and our First Lady, Sister Makita Aisha Aden. We thank you all for being here today, those that are here in the audience and those of you that are in Facebook land. We thank you for tuning in. We have some great speakers that are going to come before you today. So please open your hearts and your minds to receive the message. And our first sister that's going to come up to speak to you today is a young woman that has been around for a short period of time. But I'm sure she has some wisdom that she can impede upon each and every one of us. So please put your hands together for our very own elder mother, Cheryl Aaron. Put your hands together. I know I said young. You all will get it. Just think about it. Right. No, we live to be 1,000, so she's young.
I'm younger than I will be. Hello. In the name of the everlasting Father, he that causeth all that exists to exist, he that is self-existent, he who directs the sonship of millions of years, and he who made time the seed of the universe. How many Christians is Lord God and Jehovah? Among the Muslims in this loving world is Allah, the one God. Among the Rastafarians is Jah, Rastafari. I bear witness that all these names refer to the same one, Almighty God. And it is to him whom I give reverence and to whom I submit. I boldly proclaim that we, the descendants of those black men and women who survived the transatlantic slave trade, are the lost 13th tribe, born in North America, and are of a Nubian Kemetic lineage. I further proclaim that the blood of all the nations of the earth flows through our veins. I greet you in the ancient holy words of peace. Hotep.
Hotep.
Shalom.
Shalom alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, man.
Abaradani.
Give us Sante Abaradani.
Alafia.
Alafia and Duque.
And Ashe.
Ashe.
Welcome. And for all the men in the audience, happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know.
That's only me.
Yeah, right. But we also have a rather warm day today.
Yes.
In fact, some folks might call it a little bit hot. Well, in any case, it is hot. And some of us have a tendency to like our fluids. And I don't mean the nice, honest, good old ice water. I'm referring to that good old, not quite so honest, ice lemonade with all the sugar involved. And I mean that cold can of beer. And any other alcoholic beverage. Some people might not be aware that their bodies really don't like that very well when it's hot. Sometimes our bodies do strange things, Sometimes our body does strange things, like getting overheated. That's a no-no. We're going to take care of our bodies today, especially the young men and the older men. Now, I'm not going to say women don't have the same problem, but I will say that men seem to do it a little bit heavier than the women do. But that's not to excuse the women, because our health should be the most important thing to us in this world. Especially those of us who's going to live to be 115 per year.
That's right.
Okay? So, we're going to take care of our bodies. We're not going to fill our bodies with sugar today. We're going to fill our bodies with that nice, wonderful, cold or cool liquid water. Now, some people may say that you really should not drink cold or really, really cold water. They say that it affects the body also. And I'm sure they're right. Except that you can't be good all the time. So for me, when it's hot like this, I'm going to seek cool water to calm me down and bring my body temperature down. And so I'm not going to seek anything that has a lot of sugar in it. Now you can still do things like tea. Tea is wonderful, especially green tea and any form of a detox tea. Really, really good. If you want it a little sweet, you might want to add a touch of honey or maybe a dab of lemon juice. But you're going to drink calming liquids today. No stress. Nobody can get on your nerves today. The sun is nice and bright and warm. And we're going to have a good time and pretend we're on vacation. And for, again, the men, welcome to the world of no stress. Nobody can get on your nerves today. So, in all other things, I'm going to say peace.
Peace. Oh, that was it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, all right.
Be sure.
Y'all give it up for Sister Shirley. All right. With time to spare, Sister Shirley is very efficient in saving time. So we hope you all were listening to her message dealing with health. The health is very important. You know, and another side of the health situation that we really need to look into is mental health. You know, a lot of us is crossing the line these days and don't know we done crossed over. And I don't mean into heaven. I mean into a false sense of reality. Now, you know, have you all ever heard of this saying, if you throw a rock, the only person that hollers is the one that it hits?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I just want to know if anybody ever heard that. I mean, I just threw a rock out there. But anyway, mental health, brothers and sisters, is something that we really need to look into. And you know, as a people, we're not one of these kind of people that really, you know, go to the doctors, especially psychologists. Because, you know, we don't like telling our business. You know, we don't want nobody in our business. And when you go to a psychologist, you got to tell them your feelings, how you're feeling, why you're feeling, and, you know, and we just don't like that. So we are very prone to crossing over. And again, I'm not talking about like Moses crossed over, not Moses, Abraham. Crossed over the Jordan River and his name changed to Abraham from Abram. No, I'm saying we're crossing over into insanity, you know, and it's a serious thing. It's not an epidemic yet, but I'm telling you, in the next 5 years, it's going to be all on the news. And I want you to remember something too, and I'm going to bring up our next speaker, Brother Taharka, our youth minister in training. You know, I wonder if you all remember when they closed down Tinley Park and a lot of the other psych facilities.
Yes.
And they just let their patients out.
That's right.
Now understand what I'm saying here. These are people that had schizophrenia. What are some of the other mental stuff they? Dementia, bipolar. You know, they let these people out among regular people. No warning. You didn't hear nothing about it in the news. Briefly, you heard about they was closing the facilities, but they didn't let you know the large number of patients that they were releasing out into the wild, I'll call it. You know, and believe it or not too long after that, they came out. Well, they've been out before, because whether you know it or not, they give us technology 20 years after they used it. They done played with it for 20 years. And then after that, then they release it to the masses of the people. So they came out with this Bluetooth piece of equipment that you stick in your ear, and you can walk around and talk to yourself, or it looks like talking to yourself. So now the people that they let out that talk to themselves, they can blend in now. They don't look crazy anymore, because we have been dumbed down to what crazy looks like, because Bluetooth is crazy looking, walking down the street. Yeah, girl, you know what you talking about. I'm coming over there right now. Usually if you seen somebody walking down the street doing that, you would call the people. My mother used to say we call the people with the white jacket to come and wrap you up and take you away. But you can't call them no more, because guess what? They don't exist. And now I just want to ask you a question. Is that by happenstance or by chance, or is it by design? And is there a reason why they closed down these facilities and they letting all these people with these mental illnesses out, so that your mental illness can blend right on in? I just want you to think about it. Just something, how they say, something to make you, Arsenio Hall said, something to make you go, So, next on the docket, brothers and sisters, we have already had the lead-off hitter. She came up and she hit a base hit. Now she's on first. And we're going to bring up this slugger. He's going to come up and bring her home with a great message from the Creator. So please, put your hands together for our very own youth minister in training, brother Taharka Shakur. Put your hands together.
Peace, peace, everybody. Peace. In the name of the everlasting Father, he that causes all that exists to exist, he that accepts existent, he who directs the sonships of millions of years, and he who made time the seed of the universe. Known among the ancient Kemites as Amen-Ra and Aten, among the Hebrews as Ansal and Elohim, among the Christians as Lord God and Jehovah, among the Muslim and Islamic world as Allah, the one God, among the Rastafarians as Jah, Rastafari. I bear witness that all of these names refer to the same one Almighty God, and it is to him who I give reverence, and it is to him who I submit. I boldly proclaim that we, the descendants of those black men and women who survived the transatlantic slave trade, are the lost 13 tribe born in North America and are of Nubian and Kemetic lineage. I further bear witness that the blood of all the nations of the earth flow through our veins. I greet you in the ancient holy words of peace as Hotep, Shalom, Assalamu alaikum, Tabaragani, Alafia, Ashe. Good afternoon. I am Brother Taharka Justice Shakur, youth minister in training of the TOMA Nation under the leadership of our founder, Brother Minister Raheem Kasset Aten, our co-founder, Minister Omari Jahi Aten, and First Lady Sister Makita Aisha Aten. The TOMA Nation is an all-inclusive, black conscious, righteous movement dedicated to the social, economic, and spiritual survival of black people in the urban America. We are broadcasting live from the Bach Center located at 644 East 79th Street. I am a self-assured young revolutionary in the making who is passionate about unshackling the mental chains to our liberation. To my TOMA family, I am humbled to stand before you as a free man with love, passion, and commitment to our liberation every Sunday that I am blessed to speak on the podium. And I'm also humbled because most of you are my elders, and I'm speaking to you not as someone who can ever command you to any call of action. It's because we're all God-like energy, living a human experience, and we all deserve a better existence for occupying this realm. So in the spirit of, in the energy of this time period, for those of you who don't know in Facebook world, and just I would like to say Happy Juneteenth to everyone.
Happy Juneteenth.
And if we just talk about the history of that for just a little time, I want to just start talking about that. And I'll just read a little something that we just passed out as I just helped put together 2 Juneteenth events. The Black Mall 6th annual Juneteenth celebration. And what we usually give out to people is Juneteenth is the oldest known celebration commemorating the ending of slavery in the United States, dating back to 1865. Right, to 1865. And it was on June 19th that the Union soldiers, led by Major General Gordon Granger, landed at Galveston, Texas, with news that the war has ended and that the enslaved were now free. Note, this was 2.5 years after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which was official January 1st, 1863. The Emancipation Proclamation had little impact on the Texans due to the minimum number of Union troops to enforce the new executive order. However, with the surrender of General Lee in April of 1865 and the arrival of General Granger's regiment, the forces were finally strong enough to influence and overcome the resistance. Another small fact, tied also to that, because I was having a conversation with somebody else and they told me what Juneteenth meant to them. It was the time, again, when the last slaves knew they were free. And now they went to go searching for their family. So they started having family reunions, and this is also the start off as well, family reunions. We as a people have become so disconnected as a community, and you can date it all the way back to the trauma we had from slavery, where families were separated. Mothers were separated from their children, husbands were separated from their wives, brothers were separated from their sisters. And after slavery finally ended and the people in Texas on those plantations finally got word, what we did for the next 40 or so years was try to reconnect with our family members as possible as it was. So that's why we today have so much, we just feel it's important to attend our family reunions, to kind of stay connected. And I wish that, I see that if we were to look at Juneteenth like that, a reason for us to come together, not to talk about the negativity of what slavery was for us and overcome it, but literally look at that as a time for us to come together as a family and realize that we being of the lost 13th tribe, that we are each other's family, that we need to turn Juneteenth into a big African family reunion and really look at it as that. That's just really something that I really want to talk about, because I've had a wonderful time at the celebrating Juneteenth the last few years, with my Earth Day happening to fall into that season, the day I came to this plane of existence. Usually falls in that season, and because it's a teen, since it's the 16th, sometimes the events are on my Earth Day. And we was at the Pullman Porter Museum yesterday celebrating it, and it was the first day that the Black Mall actually did a 2-day event. But it went really, really nice. And something that somebody said, the reason why this one was better than last year's. Now, last year we had the whole street over there on 71st and Stewart, and it was blocked off, and it was a lot of people who came. You know what I'm saying? The music was perfect, the energy, and it was all day. The day before yesterday, when we was on there, we just had the sidewalk, and it was more intimate. And somebody was like, that actually felt better, because it felt more like a family reunion of us coming together, seeing some people we ain't seen in a while and having that. And then yesterday was even, with it being the inaugural of us doing the first 2 day, and it being at the Pullman Porter, it was nice to bring awareness to that museum that a lot of us in the so-called conscious circle don't even know it really exists or never been in there. And then as well as to show that, bring Juneteenth to that community. So to me, it was really a nice success. A lot of the vendors was happy, so that whenever the vendors are happy, we in the Black Mall at peace. But we're talking about Black economics this month. We're studying S.B. Fuller, and when we just think about these different vendor markets and these different marketplaces that we host, and exchanging the dollar, we really think about what are the roots that we can utilize to create in Black economics. How is that the engine, and looking at that as an engine that we have to circulate the Black dollar, and if we was to have more of those markets pop up in the city, how could we really benefit? I love that when we look back in history and we see prominent neighborhoods like Bronzeville or Hyde Park or South Shore, Auburn Gresham, Inglewood 50 years ago, and how beautiful they used to be, and how you used to have black businesses lining up and down the street, where how they got their little communities, and we did for self and was not really worried about integrating. We had beautiful neighborhoods. I don't see why we can't do that again.
Sure.
I believe that they convinced us to be vendors. That we feel it's too much to have a brick and mortar. We feel it's too much to establish a real business, when some of us have some of the most amazing products or some of the most amazing services, but yet we just sit ourselves to wait for the next vendor market to happen. We wait for the next big event where we can vend at, and in hopes that we'll have that. I remember when I first met Cassiopeia, who was the founder of the Black Mall, and she was sharing with me the idea and what the Black Mall was to her, and how she had all these vendor markets. Instantly, when I heard the Black Mall, I seen them all. I seen the physical place where you can come in and it's floors and floors of different just black-owned businesses working in one continual place. So we have to be able to practice group economics and really look at what that looks like. When we think about the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, and the one that I like talking about is cooperative economics, Ujima, how many of us are actually practicing that? What does group economics really look like? How can we today be able to continually make something happen that will set a groundwork and the foundation for us to have an economic engine for future generations to come? If we are so stuck on, well, I need to make my money now, I need to get the reciprocity now from what I'm building, and not realizing, well, I'm doing it for the next generation to have something to go off on. We are the only, I feel like we are the only race of people where our parents and our grandparents ask us for money, right? When it should be the other way around. Our grandparents and parents ask us for money, and that was always weird to me. I don't know how many arguments I've gotten into with my grandfather and my grandmother, where my grandpa used to ask my mama for money all the time, and I'd be like, how often can she ask you for money? You know what I'm saying? Because we didn't set up the generational wealth. We wasn't able to create a system where the next generation was already taken care of, and I feel like that's what we're tasked with. I feel like that's what we need to do as a community, as a people, is put that system together. Well, when the next generation rise up, we're not asking them for money. We already got the money for them instead. I was having a conversation with my grandmother, who owns a senior citizen daycare, and she's had it for a very long amount of time. And when I was telling her all the things that I'm a part of and all the things that I'm doing, she said, "Oh, you gonna help me get some money?" I say, you own a business that was producing 6 figures not too long ago. Shouldn't you help? Shouldn't you be investing in me? Shouldn't it be the other way around? And that's something that I'm going to speak about next Sunday, which is the lost arts of humanity. Some of the things that we as a community used to do that we are not doing, and they become lost arts when it comes to us building a community. So you definitely want to tune in for that when I talk about that next week. But since we're in SB's Fuller book and we're talking about economics, and last week Minister kept on mentioning this speech SB Fuller gave that turned the community against him. So today I wanted to read it and really go into the speech, and then really go into the nervous Negroes who attacked SB Fuller shortly after, and how we've had many leaders who came before and had very prominent moves for our people, such as Garvey, where then there were certain Negroes, us, who destroyed them. We seem to be our biggest enemy.
That's right.
We seem to not trust each other when someone has our best interest. We ourselves destroy them. We have to kind of get out that mindset, but we don't have to we need to get out that mindset if we are going to move forward. And if we do not give reverence to those who came before us, if we do not know the great leaders, And before I read S.B. Fuller, we all know that Kanye made a very blatant statement that slavery was a choice, and similar to what they did to Kanye, where they took that small portion of what his whole conversation was about, and then just the media showed us a certain part and turned us all against Kanye because he said something that made sense if you heard the whole speech. If you heard it in the speech, in his lecture, in his conversation, what he said made sense. You know what I'm saying? But if you just heard that part, being the common folk, they hear that. Now everybody hate Kanye because he said slavery was a choice. And I've been hearing a lot of people in the conscious community saying Kanye was wrong, and then they mention the choice that Kanye was talking about. So when Kanye said slavery was a choice, he was talking about we had a choice to either sit there and submit after we got on the ship. After they came, it was a choice. Either you gonna fight with the knowing that you could potentially die, or you gonna submit. And I hear a lot of people in the conscious community talking about Kanye was wrong, and then they talk about that choice of all the people who revolted, all the people who fought back. So then they make a choice. So we're taking things out of context without knowing the full thing, and that's what happened with S.B. Fuller. So I just brought it up today before going back and showing what happened to S.B. Fuller. What you really thinking about that? Because Kanye West is on a different level. You know what I'm saying? There's levels to consciousness. There's levels to being woke. They so say. We understand that you can be conscious, but it's a difference between conscious and black conscious. You know what I'm saying? It's a difference between being pro-black and then being black conscious. There's a difference between black supremacy and white supremacy. There's a big difference. So if we are not clear on who the person is, what the mindset they're speaking from, and what they're talking about, because S.B. Fuller was seen as a hater. Like he hated black people. Is the way they end up putting the context, where he attacked us, where he was down on us, where they made him look like the coon, where he created an economic system and a structure that was employing more blacks than any other business. He was having black people create their own jobs instead of going to work a 9 to 5. And I was having a interesting conversation with one of my close friends, and he was like, how you want to free people, but you gonna force understanding on him? And I was like, what you mean? He said, well, one, you don't want them to work a 9 to 5 for another race. I say, yeah. 80% of black businesses employ black people. Chicago alone, from my age range, from 19 to 25, has the highest unemployment rate in the nation. Nobody else is employing us, so we have to employ ourselves. You cannot give me those numbers and then talk about how your personal situation and your family members are employing a certain amount of people. But I'm still sorry, we still have a 80 to 90% unemployment rate for young men between the ages of 19 to 25 in Chicago. They can't get a job, or they weren't properly educated. So we really have to look at that and understand that we can't be in the mindset of, well, we see it happening here, but the numbers are still very, very, very high. So as I read this wonderful speech that was greatly taken out of context, it is very interesting to know that the first point in the TOMA nation is we do not make the past mistakes of our ancestors. And if I was just to speak clearly on one of the mistakes that S.B. Fuller made, I don't believe that we as a people should ever look to other races to solidify who we are as a people. And when S.B. Fuller gave this speech, he didn't give it to a room full of black people. He gave this speech to a room full of white people. And those white people shared what they want to share, even though in his newspapers they put the whole speech out there. But media can now twist it whatever way they want to. And I believe the more, if we look at COINTELPRO, even though COINTELPRO was pre-S.B. Fuller, but if we look at what it is today, they told us they would never let a Messiah come from within our people.
That's right.
And he was a Messiah. right? He was saving black people. He created an economic engine for them, and they used black people to destroy them because the black people that they put on the culture, the ones that you see on the news, the ones that you see in media, they destroyed them. So same as today, I don't trust none of those people who call themselves activists but was on CNN.
Yes, sir.
You get what I'm saying? They projected you to the world as a leader in the black community. COINTELPRO say they gonna give you your Messiah. They gonna give you your leader. So have we been given all these social media leaders, all these news media, all these people who can travel around America talking about black power, black unity, black economics? Are they sent to us? Because the last time I checked, COINTELPRO say they don't let us actually get a Messiah. Which is why you can kind of see why all the stuff they talking about, they talk good game, but ain't nothing been produced from what they talking about because it's just talk. They themselves are actually not doing the work. They tell you the work to do, then you start doing it, now you a target. You know what I'm saying? We've had so many people who spoke a certain way, who acted a certain way, who presented themselves as a certain person. Somebody else followed them, and that person ended up getting killed. So we just got to think about that as I go into Esty Fuller's beautiful speech. I'll read the speech, and then we'll go into the nervous Negroes and how you can take certain things out of context if you don't know the full meaning and the message that it was. If you don't know the context clues, you'd be lost. So he opened his speech saying, where there are people, there's progress. Wherever there is progress, there are problems. The number one domestic problem in America today is the race problem. He went on to say, it is contrary to the laws of nature for man to stand still. He must move forward. Of the internal march of progress will force him backwards. This the Negro has failed to understand. He believes that the lack of civil rights legislation and the lack of integration have kept him back. Right. So that's a good point to stop. They felt in that time that us not being integrated held us back. So let's think about two very important things that happened in American history. The Great Depression and Black Wall Street. People don't make the connection that Black Wall Street existed through the Great Depression.
That's right. Yes, sir.
So whenever we are free, whenever we do business for ourselves, America is depressed. Whenever we build an economic system, America is depressed because they was like, man, we made the money when we was their slaves. Trump is talking about make America great again. Right? It was great when black people worked for them. How many, they love hiring us to come to the third highest position in their company or work as the employee and be the hardest working employee. Just from my experience working for Whole Foods. Oh man, I was a heck of a dishwasher for them. I cleared, they've never ever seen their dish room actually never had dishes in it. On a continual basis, well, I'll be done with my work within the first hour. I come in and all the dishes be gone. Where they used to people having the dishes in there all day, and the dishes that was there when the people came in was still some of the same dishes that they left at night, the next morning. But when I came in there was never no dishes left. So they love the way we Negroes work. You know what I'm saying? They talk a good game. They talk about, oh man, you are amazing. But I was too pro-black. I was too assured of myself to move up in the company. Other people in membership, other people in leadership felt that I'd be a challenge for them to work with because who I was. I was so confident in myself that you can't be a heterosexual black male and confident in America. That's a whole nother, let me not go into that. But yeah, we failed to understand, and the lack of integration have kept him back. But this is not true. The lack of initiative, courage, integrity, loyalty, and wisdom are responsible for him not making the rate of progress that he should make. So what they projected and put in media was that first sentence, that this whole civil rights movement, it makes no sense. We think integration is the way, but they didn't put that next sentence in there where he said what was the problems. And they really took that out of context. No, they shared that second sentence and didn't put that first sentence in there. So when they made it to media, he said black people have a lack of initiative, courage, integrity, loyalty, and wisdom. And they was like, oh, did he just really say black people don't got that? In 1953, the Negro income was 57% of that of the white man. But in 1962, it was only 53% of his income. In a period of 10 years, the Negro's income have dropped 4 percentage points in comparison to the white man's income. The main reason for this is not the Negro lack of understanding of our capitalistic system of government. Capitalism is defined as an economic system in which capital and capitalists play the principal part. Specifically, the established economic system of the most modern civilized countries in which the ownership of land and natural wealth, the production, distribution, and exchange of goods, the employment and the reward of human labor, and the extensions, organizations, and operations of the systems itself are entrusted to and affected by the private enterprises and controlled under competitive conditions. This, the Negro does not understand. Let's take, for example, distribution at the retail level. 1/6 of all people employed in America are employed in retail selling. 11,650,000 people in retail sales of 1962. If the Negro had the amount of initiative, courage, and imagination required, he could control the retail selling in his own community. Since he represents 10% of the population of America today, he would be able to employ 1,065,000 people. There are 1,700,000 retail establishments in America, and yet in New York, where there are over 1 million Negroes, they do not own over 15 businesses which employ over 10 people. Unfortunately, the Negro believes that this is a racial barrier in America which kept him from succeeding. But yet, if he was to learn to use the laws of observation, concentration, memory, reason, and action, he will realize that there is a world of opportunity right in his own community. He spends over $3 billion yearly for automobiles alone, yet there are no Negro automobile dealers in America today. He blames the manufacturer for this, but it takes initiative, courage, and imagination to start an automobile sales agency. Because he do not own and control retail establishments in his own community, he is unable to stabilize his community. For every evening at the close of business, the substantial citizen leaves that community and goes to another community to live. We got all these Arab stores. We got all these Chinese nail salons. We got we got the Arab liquor store. Then we got the Arab restaurants that's giving us the chicken we like eating. You know what I'm saying? We got them doing our nails. They own the retail, the black business, the black barbershops and beauty salons are owned by them. And we think that that's some progress, but we paying rent to them. But we see the black-owned barbershop and we think it's something, but all that money that goes into them places is leaving right out of our community. Right. They're bloodsuckers, but we like to talk about money being energy. We wonder why people walk around here so dead, because they're giving all their energy to somebody else and they leaving the community with it. We put all our money in their bank systems, but yet we can't get the loans.
Yes, sir.
Because the majority of the banks, yeah, they got a branch in our community. But that ain't the bank being actually in the community. But we don't understand that. We don't support the black businesses that do exist in our community. We let the other ones leech and get the life force of our people right out of here. For every evening, right? Thus, leaving the Negro community impoverished, and the wealth derived from the Negro community through retail sales is transferred to other communities, thus building up that community. I worked in Lincoln Park, right? And a lot of other black people worked in Lincoln Park with me, and I had to ride a bus and train down 79th Street and look at the parking center. 3 years I was working for Whole Foods. Whole Foods was the only thing around at that time. Now you go over into that same area, it is a shopping district now, but right across the street, 4 different clothing stores. Comcast opened up a store right there on one corner, then on the other corner it built up, but 79th Street still look exactly the same. And we going to make all the money for them, we growing these businesses, but yeah, our community still look like this, but they steady building up new buildings in Wicker Park and Lincoln Park. Now with Hyde Park being gentrified in Hyde Park, and all these places you see buildings popping up, like out of nowhere. a business, but in our community, out of nowhere, you see a building gone. You was like, wait, wasn't there something that other day? Yeah, so they destroy stuff in our community, but build up their community. It's like they taking the building bricks from the buildings in our community and building their buildings with the same bricks. Like, yeah. It seemed like the moment something destroyed in our community, it's built up in theirs. So what's happening to the bricks? It's like they're recycling our energy, our money, our dollar, our work. We understand we live in a, what is the form of currency that we're used to? Not capitalist, but like how we talk about residual income. What's the other one when you work for the money and you trade your time for dollar? So we're trading our time. That's the definition of the term of what it is. So we keep trading our time for dollar to build up their community, and we have no time to build up ours. We understand that we talk about our dreams and building dreams. I love seeing them posts from entrepreneur mindset, people who was like, you go spend 8 hours building somebody else's dream and you too tired to work on your own. You go get 3 jobs and you're working all the time, but yet you want to build something else, but a 9 to 5 has never given anybody the opportunity to be free. People talk about, well, I'm using this job as the engine. I'm just working this job, but guess what? Life happens while you work in that job. And you wanted to save money, but you had to pay rent that month. You had to pay your bills that month. You thought that was going to get you free, but you worked there for 5 years and you still ain't got the money to start your business. You're still making the same. You went to school for all these years. This is something that was hilarious to me. That it's hilarious to me. That somebody, I was making more money at Whole Foods than somebody who had a master's degree. But we worked in the same department, and I was making more money than somebody who just went to school for 8 years and had to go get a retail job selling food at a grocery store. So you owe all that money in debt. I went to school for a month, decided, no, I'm not about to waste all this money. But you went 8 years in there, and now you working the same job that I'm working. So you ain't got money to start your own business because you got to pay all them loans you owe. You got all that business debt that you got. You got so much that you got to do whatever 8 years you went to school for. Now you got to spend the next 20 years paying off that 8 years, and now you set up. And that's funny to me that I was making more money than somebody that had a master's degree. So what does that tell you about this system? You go and get those degrees, but they still training you to be a factory worker.
Yes, sir.
That's all they're doing. They're training you to be a factory worker.
Yes, sir.
We benefit from learning trades. You know what I'm saying? When we learn how to be the electrician, we learn how to be the serviceman, we learn how to fix the problems in our community. We today, as I'm coming to the end of the speech, but we see how prolific this man was. We see the things that we saying. If you heard the whole thing, you'd be like, man, he right. What he's saying is right. But if you see what the media did with it, they show certain pieces and it looked like he attacking the Negro. Where he just down talking to us, where he like, you bad at this, it's your fault. And if you take it out of context, he sound very anti-Negro. He sound like he against black progress, like he has a capitalistic mindset, that he does not understand the plight of black people when they don't understand that this man, he didn't know working for somebody else. He was from down south working a farm, and he had to go fish if he wanted to eat. He had to stay out there and hunt and go to the garden and get the food for his family to eat and go sell it at the marketplace. He didn't know somebody else giving him the money to do it. We look for the government to give us aid. We hope that our link card comes and now we can finally buy food. We depend on them. Imagine if the Arabs up and left. What we gonna eat now?
Yeah.
They just up and left. They just left our community. Who gonna feed us? I was having a conversation with somebody, and it was like, black people don't. What happened to the front porch candy stoves?
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
What happened to the front porch candy stove?
They created a law.
They made it. So
They made it illegal.
they made it illegal for us to do that. And so
Yeah.
why didn't all the people who had this is talking about the other side of it, because they made it illegal for you to have a front porch one. But y'all was making good money. Why don't the 10 of y'all who was doing it in that same community just get together and y'all just open up a store?
Yes,
Y'all turn it into an LLC. Now they can't tell you can't have your little candy store because it's 10 of y'all making this happen. That's something every other community do but us. As I go back to this, again, then the Negro thinks that there's a racial barrier that keeps him from making progress. Therefore, he asks for legislation to remove the barrier which he automatically created himself due to the lack of action in his own behalf. Again, they put a law out there saying you can't do that back porch, front porch crap no more. That's not legal. Alright, well, we're going to go the legal way. All the back porch, front porch candy stores, alright, there's an abandoned storefront right there. I think if we was to put our money together, we can get that. And now we employing ourselves now. Now we can create a duplicatable model where we go to all the other front porch, back porch candy stores that don't know that there's a way and show them that way. Right? He believes that the purpose of business is to furnish jobs, but that is not true. The purpose of businesses is to render services and to make profit, and by doing this, it must employ people. These people must be able to render a service and produce a commodity that the businessman can sell at a profit. If not, the business can no longer employ the individual. So we need to learn how to employ our people and stop asking for jobs. You know, we don't want jobs from the government. No, the government, we do not want your jobs. We want the access to be able to buy the land and not have to own the property next to the lot. Because y'all know we don't own the property. Y'all know we don't own it. So y'all know that y'all giving opportunity for everybody else to buy up our community because we can't get the $1 lot. We all lost my generation, our family lost all the property that the family owned due to taxes that out of nowhere was just astronomically high. And you like, wow, why is it so high? I ain't got money to pay that. So you lose the house. So they know you can't get the lot next to it. So now they got your house for dirt cheap at an auction and they got the lot next to it for $1. So we have been, redlined in our own community now, where eventually they redlined us to make sure we couldn't get in their community. Now they're just coming into our communities and pushing us out that way as well. People fear automation because they do not understand it. Many always feel that which he doesn't understand. How they are getting us to feel network marketing and multi-level marketing companies because we as a people don't understand it. To us, it's a pyramid scheme. When the automobile was a threat to the horse and buggy day, they thought the automobile was going to replace the horse and wagon. But the automobile produced more jobs than the horse and buggy ever dreamed to produce. The blacksmith, who was maintenance man for the wagon, had to be retrained to be a mechanic. The produced problems, but education solved the problem. Education can and will solve the problem that automation has created, because automation is here to stay and it will prove a blessing in disguise. Of all the people that automation has thrown out of jobs, no racial group has been hit more severely than the Negro people, because most of or all of the jobs people identify with the Negro race are working people who look to other racial groups for jobs, and they are the least prepared to cope with the situation. Industry will not have to make a special effort to train these people to meet the demands of skilled help that automation has created. Not only must they be trained to do the skilled job they are going to be able to in the future, but they must be told that in no certain terms the truth about capitalism, that people must work the system and not the system work the people. The Negro must pool his capital in order to help himself. He must establish retail sale organizations throughout his community, and he must go into the light manufacturing where retail sales have already produced an outlet for the products light manufacturing can produce. This will enable him to help solve his own problems. Bank and other financial institutions must develop a more sympathetic attitude towards the application for loans when presented by Negro people engaged in business. Today it's easier for the Negro church to get a loan from financial institutions than Negro businesses. Since our capitalist system is competitive, the Negro must learn to compete with his fellow man. He must not only seek jobs, but he must own establishments which will give jobs to others. As long as we have progress, we have problems. Specialized knowledge is the only solution to the problems which progress produces. Right? So the first nervous Negro that attacked him, right, was somebody who I personally don't like. Because he played a big part in one of the largest economic engines for black people in America, which was the Negro League. Right. So Jackie Robinson decided to oppose what he said in that speech, because his speech was entered into the congressional record and released to the national press. Most publications did not print the entire address, but quoted portions of it. Statements were taken out of context, and SB was branded as anti-Negro. On December 1st, 2001, 1963, the New York Carrier represented statements taken from a syndicate column written by Jackie Robinson and printed in the Amsterdam News, a black publication in New York City. So the civil rights organizations, the religious organizations, and the prominent celebrities all attacked S.B. Fuller. They decided to boycott S.B. Fuller. They took that man down, a man who had a vision to not only employ blacks, but to help blacks get into business, to help them understand that if they was to sell and control the distribution in their community, that they can really become profitable. This man had a vision to before he died, make $100 million in total, not him personally, but to produce that engine, right? So $100 million back a few 40 years ago was a lot of, is compared to $100 million now. That's a lot of money that man was talking about making. But the Negroes was afraid of that. They was nervous. They was like, well, Jackie Robinson was nervous.
Messing with his money.
They was like, nah, this man can't do that. I just got a check from, what was it called back then? It wasn't the MLB back then, but today the MLB. When he got into Major League Baseball, and that man was a third, fourth string player in the Negro League. He won nothing. He got his claim to fame because he was the first black person to play in the MLB. When we hit more home runs, we stole more bases, we made more money. We had our own ball clubs, we had our own stadiums, but when we integrated, did we keep any of that? Did we have any black-owned teams? Do we have any black-owned stadiums? Do we have any black-owned ball clubs? No, we lost all of that. But this same anti-Negro, the real anti-Negro, who joined the MLB, who was one of the nervous Negroes who joined the MLB, destroyed the Negro League, and now is attacking S.B. Fuller because he a nervous Negro. And they like, bro, you want to get a raise? You want to get a raise? You want to make some more money? Attack this. You are the most prominent black person right now. Attack him. Destroy him. Let's get you speak first. We're gonna put your address out there, and then we're gonna get all the civil rights organizations behind what you say, and we're gonna get all of them to attack him. So S.B. Fuller went from being a savior for our community in Chicago, in the greater Chicago. I had this book, and I was talking to some sisters as I come into the closing minutes. And they lived in Robbins. She grew up in Robbins. And I mentioned S.B. Fuller's mansion in Robbins. She was talking about the Met House. I was like, no, S.B. Fuller built that for himself. That wasn't the man's house. That was S.B. Fuller's house. She was like, wow. Who was him? Well, who was he? I was like, we don't give reference to the Fuller Products buildings. The man had one of the largest conventions ever to happen at the Palmer House. Way before any white. Palmer House, which was a prominent white facility, kept letting this man have his conventions there because they've never seen a convention that beautifully put together, that mass attended. Palmer House ain't never made that much money off a convention until S.B. Fuller had his there. So we to bring it back around, if we decided to do better, if we decided to do the work that was necessary, we see, yes, America would attack us. But then that's why we have to take a holistic approach. We have to be able to defend ourselves. Black Wall Street wasn't able to defend themselves. They did the economic route without adding the security route. S.B. Fuller, he didn't own no media companies. He had newspapers, but he didn't have the mass distribution that he really needed to counteract what the mass media was doing. Exactly. We have to be able to counter their propaganda. So if we look at how to do it today, the common folk, they don't like this system. As much as we talk about not liking it, they really hate it. So why don't we talk to them? Why don't we talk them into defending us? You know what I'm saying? Why don't we talk them into going around talking to their other brothers and sisters that's in the streets with them, talking about, hey man, this man employing us. We can get a job with him. I can't go to none of the franchises in our businesses, but this man putting us to work. we can work now. We get mentored by him because a lot of them don't have a father. Going back to the lecture for next week, the lost arts. So one of the lost arts is manhood. We don't know how to be a man anymore. We have not been taught or know what a man even looked like. Somebody told me that I was a dying breed as a gentleman. So if I'm a dying breed and I'm only in my early 20s, what happened to the other men? You know, what out there? So we know they're out there. So we have to be a mentor to the common folk. We have to understand that they want this. They've been looking for a way out. And we talk about 80% of our people. No one focuses on 8%. We feel they're dead. We feel like they're gone. We don't want to do the work. But I feel like if we was to start to educate them, if we was to start to bring them in to what we're doing, they'd be open to it. Yes, we know they have trauma since they were 6 or 7. Most of them seen drug deals or seen somebody get killed right in front of their face. And we don't talk to them. We don't commune with them. So closing, I say it's up to us. A brother in a company that we always talk about, he said, there's someone that looks like me out there waiting for somebody like you to present something like this to them. And they just been waiting. So how long are you going to make them wait? So in closing, I greet you, I leave you in the same way that I greeted you, in the words of peace as Hotep, Shalom, Assalamu alaikum, Abaragani, Alafia, and Ashe.
Peace, peace, peace.